Alex Tate is co-founder of the Coalition for Reform on Political Advertising. Good afternoon.
Hi, Emma.
Your group is supported by the Green Party and For Change Now. Does that mean you're politically active yourself?
No, not at all. No, we're politically neutral. I don't have a political background at all. And actually, I'd say from the project and exercise we've done over the election, this really isn't a partisan issue. We've seen misinformation and disinformation from across the political spectrum. So breaking new ground in some senses with some of the examples from the Conservative Party, with the doctored Keir Starmer video, through to obviously the sort of Twitter Fact Check UK example. But actually, if you go to the other end of the political spectrum, the Liberal Democrats have got quite a body of examples as well, often around sort of labelling of data and some of the way they've used data around sort of bar charts, with a couple of examples, for example, where they've attributed the data as being YouGov instead of another third-party source. So we've seen, as we've documented in the report, we've seen examples across the spectrum. And I think actually the research we've done with YouGov that shows that 87% of the public think that it should be a legal requirement for factual claims to be accurate, I think that the public's had enough. We don't think actually the solution to this is that difficult. I think for a long time this has been put in the too difficult box. If there's the political will there, all really that needs to be done is to get political parties to agree to a code of practice, and it's just in the same way that all other advertising is governed, because it's only political advertising that is outside of the remit of the Advertising Standards Authority and has no rules. And we just need to extend. That's right, yeah. So that you can say almost whatever you want in a political ad, but obviously you can't say Guinness gives you strength, you can't say Carlsberg is the best lager in the world, but there are no rules at all around advertising content, and it's just got to change.
What is your background if it's not political then?
So my background's as an advertiser. So I've worked, and in fact we started up as advertising practitioners, I think, that are just very frustrated with the amount of rules that advertisers have to abide by. And you see what happens in an election, and it is literally, it's why we sort of titled the document the opposite of the ASA mantra: legal, decent, honest and truthful. Any advertiser has to, if you've got a TV ad, for example, you've got to put facts through a pre-clearance process where you get substantiation of factual claims. So we think actually this loophole, this gap that exists for political ads, just needs to be closed. And this election perfectly demonstrates it.
Who's going to make that happen?
Well, we need to raise awareness of the issue, so that's why it's great to be on your programme talking about it. We're certainly engaging with politicians and are keen on sort of obviously developing that into the new year. We'd love your listeners to help us as well. We're not for profit, we're politically neutral, but we're documenting lies and misleading ads on our Twitter account at Clear Politics. Clear Politic 5, which is Clear Politics with a 5 as the last letter, if people want to follow us there. And we are going to be developing our call for change in the new year. I just think really we've got to a point where there has been so many misleading claims and so many factual inaccuracies.
Can we just drill down on that for a moment? Because there's obviously a difference between misleading claims, so ads that contain facts that are not right, and then political adverts which are hearts and minds, shall we say.
That's right.
A lot of people have been seeing the spoof of Boris Johnson doing the Love Actually thing, which is all about Brexit. Would that come under this?
No, it wouldn't. So we're saying we aren't advocating rules for manifesto commitments, for future promises, for attack ads. It's just if someone says something is an objective factual claim and they're presenting it as a fact, you should have to substantiate it in the same way that all other advertising has to substantiate it.
We've got a couple of texts on this. We've got one here from Eamon who says, couldn't we have VAR for election fact-checking? If a party gets caught out, maybe they're suspended from a day's campaigning, so bringing the rules of sport and football into this. What do you think of that?
Well, there needs to be some sort of penalty. That would be a novel one.
OK, and because I suppose actually quite well married to that is another message that's come in. A ruling by the advertising watchdog wouldn't come for months. It'd be too late for an election.
Well, that's not really true, I think. And actually, one of the things we've been doing with this exercise is, I think, dismantling some of the arguments on why it can't be done. So this project, in many ways, has been looking at ads as they've, been sort of being put out there, and looking at third-party fact-checking sources to come up with basically a decision on if they're misleading or not. And I think if people look through the report and look on our website, they can see for themselves, when you actually look at the examples, it's a lot more clear-cut than you might think in a philosophical sense. When you actually get round to doing this, we think it's very doable, and it is really, the barrier is just getting the parties to show some leadership on this issue.
Where are you going to go next with this? Because it hasn't happened during this election. We never know when the next one is. Do you think you can get something away?
Well, we've had. So we're advocating a couple of things around the campaign. Actually, another thing that we are advocating as well is for there to be transparency around ads, so to prevent dark advertising, and we've been lobbying hard around that point. And our recommendation to have an independent database of all political ads set up was put into the recommendations of the fake news report run by the DCMS. This isn't this is something that's important. The public wants. We need to keep pushing for change.
Alex,
I don't think it's going to be easy, but it has to happen.
Alex Tate, thank you very much for outlining that and that area of work that you're involved with, co-founder of the Coalition for Reform on Political Advertising.